Welcome to Social Aloe Ministries, where we are committed to glorifying God while exposing the devil. Let's get down to business with some women in the Bible, some real entrepreneurs. First one I'm going to speak about is Rahab. Unfortunately, Rahab sometimes she's overlooked because she's oftentimes looked at as being a prostitute, a harlot. Yes, the Bible said that she was one. However, there was more to her than that. In Joshua chapter 2, Joshua sent 2 Israelite spies into Jericho to perform reconnaissance of the city. And they had an encounter with Rahab where she showed that she was truly an entrepreneur. And a part of being an entrepreneur is being able to recognize an opportunity and capitalize on it. Now, starting in verse 9 of Joshua chapter 2, and she, Rahab, said unto the men, I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us. So she knows that the Lord has given them the land. Who told her that? She could also see the Lord in an opportunity. Do not miss your godly opportunity because you could not recognize it. So Rahab could recognize the Lord in a situation, and somehow she knew the Lord had given the Israelites the land. And that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. While people are fainting, in a sense passing out, getting weak, she's standing up and she's about to make a move. When others basically are passing out, she's standing up to make a move. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you, when ye came out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the kings of the Amorites, that were upon the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. Can you recognize when the Lord is on someone's side and when it's best to join that person or those individuals as opposed to fighting against them? Because if you oppose that person or those individuals, you'll be opposing God. Can you recognize those things in an opportunity? And as soon as we have had heard these things, our heart did melt. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For the Lord, your God, he is the God in heaven above and in earth beneath. She said that as soon as we heard these things, our hearts did melt. So they had fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, but it's how you perform in the presence of fear. So even though she too was fearful, she's standing up and she's making a move. She's about to make the business deal of her life. She's about to make the business deal of her life. Now therefore, I pray you, swear unto me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness. I'll pause again. Are you mistreating people who could potentially give you your breakthrough? Or are you showing them kindness? I won't go there, but also direct you to 2 Kings 2, when a Shunammite woman kept being kind to Elisha. And as a result of that, he prophesied that she would have a child, and the Lord blessed her within a year. Know who labors among you. Know who labors among you. Hebrews 13 also tells us about be careful how we entertain strangers, because many have entertained angels unawares. Now, they're fallen angels, you don't want to entertain them. And they're holy angels. That is a good thing. And it doesn't matter if a person is an angel or not. Watch how you treat people, especially those who potentially have your breakthrough in hand. So since I have shown you kindness, that ye will also show kindness unto my Father's house, and give me a true token. And she's trying to make a covenant with them, a binding agreement. And that ye will save alive my father, and my mother, and my brethren, and my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. So the situation was dire for Rahab and her family. And also, Rahab was not selfish. She could just try to save herself. But she also did things to save her family members. She allowed the men safe passage. They came back. Jericho was destroyed. But Rahab and her family were rescued. And a part of the reason why I say that she made a business deal of her life wasn't simply because she and her family escaped the carnage. Oh no. And one of the things I mentioned about Rahab being overlooked, when you look in the New Testament, Matthew chapter 1, verse 5, it speaks about the genealogy of Christ. Who is in there? Rahab. Rahab ended up marrying an Israelite named Salmon. They had a son named Boaz. Boaz had a son named Obed, the father of Jesse, the father of King David. And it goes down to Christ Jesus. Rahab knew how to treat people, recognize a godly opportunity, and most of all, capitalize on that opportunity, saving not only herself, but also her family. Another woman, in essence, I'd never imagined that I'd speak highly of her, because one of the first books I ever wrote was The Anatomy of a Heartbreak, when Samson met Delilah. And I'm going to speak about Delilah. Oh, that seductress named Delilah. That devil, Delilah. But she was a businesswoman. Samson, he loved Delilah. But Delilah, she loved something else. And in Judges 16, chapter 5, the Philistines made Delilah an offer she could have, but she chose not to refuse. And it reads, And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her, and said unto her, Entice him, and see wherein his great strength lieth, and by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him. And we will give thee, every one of us, 1,100 pieces of silver. Now, a lot of people read that and say, okay, the Philistines say that they're going to give her 1,100 pieces of silver. Now, with those 1,100 pieces of silver, I'm not sure if you were to weigh it in comparison to what Judas got for selling out Christ, Jesus. I'm not sure how that compares. But just on the surface, you're like, she's getting 1,100 shekels, or some people say, or some places says pieces of silver, but Judas got 30. So even on the surface, it seems as if Delilah was a better business person than Judas. If there's going to be a bounty, well, there was a bounty on his head. But if anyone it was worth the bounty of all bounties, that person was Jesus. But Judas sold him out for 30 pieces of silver. And again, when a lot of people read Judges 16 verse 5, they look at it that Delilah sold Samson for 1,100 pieces of silver. But oh no, it was more than that. See, it says, the lords of the Philistines came unto her. And then he said, we will give thee, every one of us, 1,100 pieces of silver. We will give thee, every one of us. So the question is, how many lords were they? Well, when you flip to 1 Samuel 6, you'll see a lot of places, but I'll go to verse 16, where it says, and when the 5 lords of the Philistines had seen it, they returned to Ekron the same day. So it says 5 lords. So does that mean that rather than 1,100 pieces of silver, she actually got 1,100 pieces of silver from each of the 5 kings or the 5 lords, meaning 5,500 pieces of silver? Either way, Delilah was a businesswoman. And if she ever loved Samson at all, she saw a better opportunity, and she took it. Now, I am not advising you to sell someone out for money. No, especially if you're doing it to a man or woman of God, because you're going to get in trouble with the Lord. But Delilah, she was a businesswoman, and she took the money and she left Samson out in the cold. Now, there's another popular businesswoman that is oftentimes overlooked, but we know she's virtuous. And we'll go to Proverbs 31, and I'll do a lot of reading in this one. Proverbs 31, starting verse 10. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ship that bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household and a portion of her maidens. She riseth also while it is yet night. And I pause here for a second. There's a poem, I think it's called a limerick, that I was taught when I was a child, and I still remember it. And it's called, or it says, the heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling onwards through the night. So this Proverbs 31 woman, sometimes she'll miss out on sleep in order to get things done. Don't get lazy when it's time to get up. And it continues. She considered a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. Whenever you plant things, you're expecting a harvest. What are you planting? What are you investing in? She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. Are you giving to those less fortunate? You may have heard that those who give to the poor lend to God. She's not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her clothing is silk and purple. Purple is oftentimes a color associated with royalty. Her husband is known in the gates, when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen, and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. I'll pause for a second. I've heard some people say that this can't be one woman. She just does too much. It has to be like several women, and it's a composite image of the person. No. I have seen some women like this. Not a whole lot, but they are out there. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She openeth her mouth with wisdom. Oh, my Lord. She openeth her mouth with wisdom. And whether you're a man or woman, choose your words wisely. A lot of times, you can be on the cusp of securing a business deal, but because of the things that you say, it just blows it. Now, as Christians, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So ensure you're doing things in the fear of the Lord and also for His glorification. And in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, he praiseth her. And especially for a woman, ensure that if you have a family at home, that you're not more concerned about what other people think about you. Because it says that her children called her blessed. Her husband called her blessed. And they praise her. They praise her. For the men, if you know you have a Proverbs 31 woman, and she'll call you that Ephesians 5 man, ensure that you honor her. Ensure that you honor her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. So we have 3 business women of the Bible, and there are more, but 3 business women of the Bible. We can all learn something from them, even Delilah. But I pray that you learned something from this. And I was excited when I received the assignment to do this teaching. God bless you, and God bless your family.